Hi, it's Nicole Brandon, and welcome to Hourglass Bride. I hope everybody had a very special and wondrous Valentine's. It's really an amazing time of year. Yesterday was Valentine's Day here, and we had a very special guest. We had a woman named Lisa Rose come on and truly talk about the opening of the heart and relationships and how true love really starts with you, that you are the common denominator in all of these relationships. And truly that self-love, when you can fill your own cup and when you can fill your own heart, because it's that very heart that you're giving to somebody. And so I encourage you all to find Lisa Rose's broadcast on Unlimited Life. It was really very special, and what a spectacular way to celebrate Valentine's Day. Also yesterday here in the States, we opened 50 Shades of Grey, and there's so much controversy surrounding this movie. It's amazing. I saw lines wrapped around the block to see this film. And so how we talk about love, how we talk about our relationships has changed drastically. And so it's always such an interesting conversation. This past year for me, just all of the charity work that I've done, and just recently working with the Archangel Academy, being knighted, working with the Order of St. John, to see the way that people's lives and hearts could be touched in profoundly deep ways, changing ways, altering ways, and the conversations that we have. The other night I went to a 50 Shades party, and they had doctors, psychologists, marriage, family counselors. They had pole dancing studios, toy companies, and people got to ask really real, raw, and honest questions. And it's so nice to be able to have forums where people can ask questions about their sexuality. They can ask questions about their mate, how to have these conversations with their partner, how you introduce things into your relationship. And if you even know what you want and how you want it, and how to really explore that happily ever after. Today we had planned for you a very special guest, somebody that I know, is life-altering in healing the heart and freeing your mind. And I know that we've had some technical glitches, so I'm not sure that she's being able to jump on a line. But I want to tell you about her work, because it is Brandy Faith Weld. And Brandy just does amazing, extraordinary, life-changing, life-altering, seat-edging work on really how to launch into that freedom that you know you desire and you deserve. She had a near-death experience, and she came back from that just determined and diligent to really make a change in people's lives. Her book, Heal Your Heart, Free Your Mind, actually launches tomorrow, and you'll be able to find it on Amazon. And I'll tell you a little bit about her, but she truly is a beautiful person, genuine, stunning, spectacular, and one of the wisest people I've ever come across. She's a best-selling author. She's an agent for the healing of the heart and change, and she has been involved in neuroscience and personal development work for over 25 years. She's led individuals and organizations in peak performance, those of you that are familiar with peak performance development, and she's taught transformational courses around the world. But really, once she hit rock bottom, once she had that near-death experience, she returned back from the other side with this true mission to change the world. So if you're looking for something to really treat yourself to for Valentine's, a way to really open your heart and allow love in at a different level of consciousness, then I urge you to go out and to find her book and call us and let us know, because certainly we'll have her back on the show and we'll have an open forum where she'll be able to discuss all of these things that she's sharing, all these secrets and tools and keys to the conversations of the heart. I think I may have her with me. Brandy, are you here?
Hi.
I am here. Did you hear I was just talking about you and sharing your amazing work? I was telling people about the launch tomorrow and urging them to rush out and find your material, but it's so beautiful to have you here in person. Happy Valentine's.
Happy Valentine's Day to you. Oh, my gosh, what a beautiful weekend we're having, right? It's like a beautiful 3-day weekend, Valentine's weekend here in our, home area, Southern California. It's like a hot summer day, too.
I know. It's glorious. So I was sharing with the audiences, I know you're trying to get on, about your work, about your background, about the fact that you came back with this mission in your heart. And so I guess the first question I want to ask you, which I always love asking our guests, is the did you know factor. I mean, I know that you had a near-death experience when you came back, but even beyond that, when you were a little girl, like 6 or 7 or 8, were you naturally in care mode? Like, were you taking care of other kids, or were you helping people, or was it something that you found later that you were drawn to being able to change people's lives and help them?
Yeah, honestly, I do believe that my soul came in with that nature, and it just depends on what people believe or not. If this is our first go around on the earth, or we've had other go arounds on the earth, and I think my belief is that I've had more than one go around on the earth here, and that my soul had that same nature in other lifetimes, and I mean, truly, what I really experienced when I was younger was that this great pain of how much pain is here in the world, and I was quite the empath, and it hurt me. I was like, I would feel the world's pain, and it was just painful to be here, and I kept finding myself wanting to be on the other side where that pain didn't exist, and where people, where all the souls were like one, and we operate from this, we and love, and not this separation and competition, and and from this fear and survival. So where we're always kind of trying to protect ourselves, and are operating from a lot of this fear and pain that just kind of gets spread around the world. And so just from a really young age, I always long for what I experienced on the other side, that at a soul level, I guess I still remembered, versus, when I actually did cross over again in this lifetime. But that I wanted to experience it here on the earth, and for so much of my younger years, I didn't feel like it was possible on this earth. And happily, I do. When I came on the other side, I was told that it is possible, and that's a lot of what this book is about, and my program is about. So I came back a different feeling that it is possible. It is happening now. And I'm excited about what's going to be starting to unfold for the world right now.
Oh, that's so beautiful. What a great answer. I absolutely love that. And, I was looking at your bio, and there were so many things I didn't even know about you. But, I mean, you worked in the Salesforce training. You worked in development and organization, which I think is profound. And so how did you go from such a high level of working in that field to bridging over to the human heart and consciousness?
Well, it all started from my own pain. I mean, beginning was because I did grow up in your typical Western home, a dysfunctional one. And I was just always seeking for some functionality from a very young age. And luckily, I found all my mother's personal development books that she had, because she was trying to relieve herself from all of the pain that she was raised in, right? And so I just read all of her books from a really young age, and I just became so passionate about this, this healing, this growing and learning, this relief of this painful world that I was experiencing. And when it just became so much a part of me. It became a part of my identity. I started to think like the purpose of life was growth and learning. And so, it's been a big part of me from a very young age. And then when I found Tony Robbins, I found his book, Awaken the Giant Within, and that just opened up a whole new world for me, and just kind of became a game changer for me, because I started really realizing how I was really creating and participating in the creation of this life that I felt I lived in a, and remember Atari, the old Atari, first video games was the Atari asteroids that you were trying to, like, either shoot the asteroids down or, like, ditch them so that they didn't hit you?
Yes.
You remember that? Okay.
Yes, of course.
I'm showing my age a little bit, right, of that game, but, that's how my analogy for life was for me at the time. I felt like asteroids were coming at me all the time, and my whole life was about dodging and ditching these asteroids before they hit me. And I started to realize, I'm attracting these asteroids. I am creating these asteroids by focusing on all of this pain and feeling sad and feeling sorry for myself and for me, and feeling like people don't like me, don't love me, all these like stories that would kind of go around in my head that I was creating this life experience. And so as I started to have more awareness around that, I just like dove into everything Tony Robbins taught, and then also everything about NLP and, behavioral science and neuroscience, and that just became my passion. So, yeah, even though I was, working in a corporate environment, that's the environment that I got taken into outside of college, what my real passion kept being is this growth and learning. And as I started to discover this, I started realizing, I just really started wishing that the whole world knew this and how different the world would be, and realized how different my life would be if I knew this from a younger age. I would just have a completely different life at that moment, and also how different my life would be if my parents knew it. And so I just became passionate about sharing it with as many people as possible, to my family chagrin, right? Because I was like, preaching at them. I was trying to get them to like Tony Robbins programs and all these other programs, a lot of Tony Robbins programs, and they had no interest in it whatsoever. But with that, I realized, gosh, I want to help other people be free of pain that they might be experiencing, like, I experienced, because, I know it's only hurting people that hurt others. And if we could just stop the pain, it'll stop getting, spread around. And so I loved my nice, cushy corporate job at Cisco Systems, and I was making really great money. And I still had that feeling of fear of not wanting to, doing something on my own, not leaving a nice corporate America job, with all the money and all the benefits and all the, the protection of that. And so what I wanted to see how I could, share this kind of awareness with people by staying, while still staying within corporate America. And I had this vision, and I proposed it to our executive vice president of Cisco Systems, and he said, great idea, why don't you go do it? And, I became one of the starters of this new organization in Cisco called Worldwide Salesforce Development, where I got to sneak all of this stuff that I had been learning into our training and development programs for both our sales skills and for our new hire worldwide. And I was just loving my life at that time. And then I'll have to say, to kind of go where I transitioned from that into what I'm doing now was, I would take my vacation, and I would assist Tony Robbins with his live events, and I was helping him with his last life mastery event in Hawaii in 2001, and that's when 9/11 happened. And that event changed the trajectory of my life forever. And it was, what happened there is because of what happened. So, of course, 9/11 was such a very dramatic event for, a lot of the world, but mostly Americans. But what was powerful about this event was that it happened at 3 a.m. our time, so everybody was in bed when it happened, and we had an 8 a.m. start, and so people didn't know what had just gone on for the most part. And so Tony Gate delivered the, news of what just happened, and there happened to be a man from Palestine there, and he got up and said, I'm glad this happened because now you Americans know how it feels. And then there was a man from Israel got up who was in the room too, and he got up and he said, you guys are the cause of the world's problems because you guys are raised to hate. And so here we had the Middle East, problem on this American, right in the middle of the biggest event that happened on American mainland soil. And we had almost about 4,500, mostly Americans at this event, and a big portion of them from New York. So as you can imagine, the emotions were really high. And so Tony, a master is he brought both young men onto the stage, and he worked with them. And in the end, they were hugging each other, saying, I love you, man. And they created an organization called Passion and Action for Peace to bring what they just learned to their respective communities. And almost everybody in the whole room joined it, volunteered for it. And in the end, we were all arm in arm singing, we are the world, we are the children. Quite a change from how we started at 8 a.m. in the morning, right?
Wow, Brandy.
Yeah. And so it was at that moment I realized that that's what I really wanted to do. I wanted to stop things like that from happening. People operating from hate and separation and hurt and not realizing that at our core we're the same, and together we can get through anything, but in fear and in separation and competition, we'll just destroy ourselves. So, that got me the courage to step out in my faith and leave my nice little corporate comfy job where I was very limited of what I could do to help heal people's consciousness in a corporate environment, right? So I stepped out in faith and created a program. So, my first thought of shifting consciousness was through the younger generation and sharing with them what I had learned that I wish I had known, younger. But I soon realized I couldn't teach kids positive, empowering belief systems and put them back in a disempowered environment. So what I did is I created camps up in Lake Tahoe for families, and they were called Strengthening a Family While Having Fun. And that was the beginning of my journey into guiding people into healing their relationships and freeing them from the mental patterns that have limited their life, and helping them really transform their life into the one of their heart and soul's intention that they really want to live.
Wow,
so that's how I made the
story.
transition.
Oh my gosh, Brandy, that is one of the most courageous, bravest, spectacular stories I've ever heard on how I got to this platform and why.
Wow, thank you.
So beautiful. Now, you have a book that's coming out tomorrow, I think, right? You're launching a new book.
Tomorrow, yep.
Tomorrow, that's amazing. And for those of you that are listening around the world, it's February 16th. And those of you that are listening at the broadcast later, you'll be able to find it, I believe, on Amazon, correct?
Yeah, you'll actually be able to find it at brandysbook.com. BRANDYS book.com.
Fabulous. And it's called Heal Your Heart and Free Your Mind. And I have to tell you, the first time I read that, it was like marinating in a tub. It's such a luscious title. You just go, oh, it feels so good. And just the idea of healing one's heart. Because especially yesterday we had a show on Valentine's Day, how many people are longing for love or have been hurt in love, or those that have love that want to enrich love, or even in business, or like you're talking about between countries and consciousness. And so how can one heal your heart? I would love your take on one, how you came up with the title, which I think is such a brilliant title, and two, the consciousness of healing your heart, which I think speaks to every person everywhere around the world.
Yeah, well, really, it's based on my workshops that I have been doing for quite a few years now, called Heal Your Relationships, Transform Your Life. And really, that is the pathway to healing your heart and transforming your life. It's really of healing all of our relationships, because really what is creating our life and driving our life is the programming that we have received since the point of conception. And you know, most of the world doesn't know this. You know, most of what we are aware of, what we've been programmed with, is the stuff that we can remember in our childhood. But really, you know, 50% of our personality is created by the time we are born. And, you know, there's like, that means over 50% is just is stuff that we just got programmed with that we're not even aware of. So we have absolute no memories whatsoever. And so it doesn't matter, let's say, if you grew up with your parents or not, over 50%, about at least 50% of what's of them is programmed in you. And this is just because of, you know, how the development of a human being is. So, you know, nature in its divine intelligence, you know, just downloads masses of information from the parents, not only, you know, from the parents, like, you know, genetics and their programming and their subconscious and their neural network, but also from, you know, the culture and the society that they were raised in, so that the new child knows can now operate in the environment in which they're about to be born into. So in this divine intelligence, you know, to help human beings now have the, you know, if you will, software to be able to operate in this new environment that they're about to be born into, you know, in this body, it's also the seed of the very problem that is causing us problems and limitations in our life. And so, you know, really, that is a lot of what needs to be just moved out, that's no longer serving us, is this, you know, programming that we receive even by the time we're born, but then also, you know, the first let's say 3 to 4 years, our alpha brain and our beta brain hasn't even been fully developed. It hasn't even been developed. It just starts, the alpha brain just starts to be developed around 3 or 4, and that's why we tend to have memories around that age. So, you know, however, the earliest memory you have, that's the sign of when your alpha brain started, you know, developing. And it doesn't get fully developed until we're about 7 years old. And so basically during this time period, you know, the brain is in delta and theta, which is a hypnagogic trance state. It's the same state that hypnotherapists use to program their clients into new behaviors, right? So we're just getting programmed. You know, the subconscious mind is a recording playback mechanism. So it's designed to record information for later playback of when that information is needed. So, you know, at first you didn't know how to walk, and then you learned, and now it's a program that you just do automatically that you don't think of. The same thing, you know, happened with driving. At first you had to think, you know, first gear, second gear, third gear, fourth, you know, clutch, right? It was like a challenge. Okay, which way did I go? And now you drive, and you don't even remember how you got there, right?
Right.
So that's what happens, is that, you know, the mind just now records this information for later playback of when it's needed. And so we just have all these years of recording information that we're not even aware of for later playback. And if we don't go through any processes to go in there and look at what's inside of there, what I say, what's underneath the waterline, you know, meaning what we show to the world is like the tip of the iceberg, but there's like the biggest part of the iceberg is under the water, right? And so that's
Absolutely.
The same with us.
Yes.
Yes.
Wow.
And that's the same with us. Most of us is underneath the water. And if we don't go and see what's underneath the water, that's what hurts us. That's what hurts us. And so that's what we're doing is we're going underneath the water, and we're, now looking at what's underneath the water, the rest of the iceberg, and now clearing that out so that that's not unconsciously driving our lives. Just return everybody back to their pure essence, to their pure heart, which is, pure love, not all this programming they receive, so that they can now create and experience life from that place instead.
That's so beautiful. Wow, I love that. I mean, and it's funny when you say that we already came in with this information and before we're even born. And it's interesting because I never crawled, and all these doctors had studied me and whatever. And I just got up and I started walking. I was just a couple months old, and I just got up and I started to walk. And then years later to become an aerial acrobat and a gymnast and whatever. But my body already had that information. Of how to do that. And so it's amazing that when you talk about that, we come in with all of this information we don't even realize. And I love that you're saying that information is there for an environment we're going to be born into.
Yeah.
So we already have these tools.
Yeah. I want to ask you about that. So is it that your parents had done that stuff before, or do you feel like your soul came in with that information
I think my soul came with that information, yeah.
Okay, yes.
So, but I love that.
There's that part too.
Yes. And then when you talk about healing your heart and freeing your mind, I love freeing your mind because that's like a launching pad, and you were talking about that freedom of the spirit or the soul, or bringing people together. And so how did you put those two things together?
Well, so basically what so all of that programming happened from relationships, right? So, from starting with your relationship with your parents and then there on. So as we heal our relationships where all this programming and this wounding happened, now that's how we're now returning you back to your pure essence of that pure love. And now your mind is no longer, the more we move all of that programming out, what I call cud, like, how like a cow, it chews its food, or a cow just like kind of swallows it into the stomach really quickly and then brings it back up, that cud, so that it can process it later. That is, I'm healing, we're like now healing all that cud that just got shoved down for later processing that we never really got to process just because of how the mind is designed. So basically, as we start to heal all of this cud, we are now, and it gets to process, we can now just be returned back to this pure essence, pure love that we really are. And now the heart, which is the biggest electromagnetic part of our being. So, the brain is only puts out, they've measured, both the brain and the heart of how much femtoteslas it puts out, which is just a measure of EMF. And the brain only puts out 10 or a little less than 10 EMF, if you will, out. And the heart puts out 50,000 femtoteslas or EMF. So that's 5,000 times more powerful than the brain. And so it's really our heart that is broadcasting out to the world what's really going on inside of us, all that stuff that's hiding underneath the waterline without our awareness, So, for instance, we're broadcasting out right now, right, over radio, but we're conscious of what we're broadcasting out. And there's receivers around the world that are now receiving this information that are like-minded and resonate with that. And, that's the same thing that's happening with us. We're broadcasting out like a radio station, and all of these other hearts are picking it up. They're transceivers. They're picking it up, but we aren't aware of what we're unconsciously broadcasting out. And the world is just responding to us based on what we're broadcasting out. And that's just the big difference of, us like what we're doing right now and really what we are doing all the time as human beings of, broadcasting out to like a radio station of what's really living inside of us, our hearts, and then the world is just responding to it. And where the heart gets this to broadcast out is all the stuff that's stored in our subconscious mind. And so the more we can clear out that crud out of our subconscious mind, and there's none of these old stories, these old hurts and these old wounds that we picked up in this lifetime, but our parents and their ancestors before got programmed with, that just got passed down to us in this hand-me-down software that we received, while we're in the womb, that the mind is filtering through, that's coming up with all these stories that then drive our lives, that create our perceptions in life, that create our projections in life, and also create what we are, what's attracted to us. What we're vibrating out, that then like vibration is drawn to. So as we can heal that wounding from all of our relationships, now the mind doesn't have that to filter with, and so now it doesn't have all these stories. So I used to have all kinds of awful stories that I woke up in the morning with such pain that I woke up depressed and I didn't want to be here, and now those are all gone, and I just wake up happy and excited about life. And those wow. I can vaguely remember those stories and feeling that way.
It's so funny, because that was my next question for you, and I'm loving this information. I love the heart being like a receiver. And so I have two questions along with that. My first is, are people surprised? When they find out what stories they're carrying or what's in their head or their heart, are they surprised by it? And the second question was, do you reach a point where you don't even remember that was a story in your life, that you actually hit the delete or erase button?
Yes. I will answer that first question first, and the second one. The first question is, yes, you get to a point where you don't even remember this stuff. I have so many people, friends and family, a lot of friends that say, do you remember when we did this, that, and the other thing? I'm like, no, I really don't. Like that stuff is gone. It's just not there anymore. And so I don't know, life is just so much more peaceful. My mind is so much more quiet. I feel much more just happy and joy. And so when I say, the other side of this is a joy-filled, magical life, that's what you start to experience, because that's what you're filtering through, and that's what you're now broadcasting out. And so, the memories are gone. It's like knowledge and awareness you might have got from the journey is there, but all the charges, I call it a charge, is gone. All those feelings, emotions, those stories that used to come up in your mind. And the second question is that there's a lot of stuff in there that the mind, and it's designed to protect the child and protect the being and protect itself. The mind ego, it has just wanted you to not remember. It keeps shoving it down and distracting you, and wants you to pretend it's not there. It doesn't. It's designed to avoid pain, and so it is just always shoving it down. And so people have a lot of stuff that's in there that they don't even remember until we bring this out, and that's great. It's awesome. They might not want to think, they don't want to remember it, but when we do that, it's very short-lived, and then it's out of your being forever, and now it's no longer driving your life, versus shoving it down and still driving and controlling your life without your awareness.
Just beautiful. And Brandy, how does somebody work with you to be able to release these past stories, or to be able to have that clarity to wake up in the morning like you're talking about, like a songbird, it's a beautiful day and ready to take on the world?
Well, I really only work in my workshops. So, we have this book is a great introductory to really going through the process that we then take people through in our 8-day intensive workshops. And so, it's beautiful to now really start that journey through this book. And we do as much as we can through the book to take people through that process. But there's a lot that we can't do through the book. But I have incorporated a lot of technology to try to, simulate a bit of the same similar experience, but really, for us to do that deep work, they need to come to this 8-day intensive that we have to really move this stuff out.
I love that. And how do they find out about the workshop and the intensive? Just on your website?
Yes, healyourheartforyourmind.com is where all that information is. But I really encourage people to go kind of start that journey in the book. And with the book, what we're offering, too, is a group coaching call, which is just like a low monthly fee, and we have 2 1.5-hour group coaching calls where that we can, answer any of their questions and help them with the process that they're going through in this. So that's like the great first step of this, and is those kind of together, and then get into that 8-day intensive.
Wow, just spectacular work. And I love the fact that you have that support as people are going through it and that they can jump on the call. I mean, you offer such incredible information. And I know that your subtitle says, break free from struggles in your relationship in all areas of your life, which you just want to say that, you want to walk around your house with your arms up in the air and go, break free from struggles in your relationship in all areas of your life. So can you talk about that? Because I'm going to just start doing that now.
Break free from struggle in all areas of your life.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, because of all this programming that we've received, from the point of conception, this is what our mind is filtering through. So when it's like perceiving the world and it's projecting out into the world, and and so that's like the vibration in which if we keep broadcasting out there into the world, and because we're broadcasting that out into the world, we keep attracting a similar thing in our life over and over again. So we all have these patterns in our life and it can be in different areas of your life, that just keep showing up with a different name and a different face. And no matter what you do, you just can't seem to get around. You just, I kind of equate it to being like a fly that can see where it wants to go clearly, and it keeps trying to get there, but it keeps hitting this invisible barrier over and over, and it flies here and it hits the barrier. It flies over there, it hits the barrier. It flies up, it's down, it hits the barrier, and no matter what it tries, it can't get to its goal. And it just seems like there's something in its way all the time. And all of us have this kind of thing in our life, in a certain area of our life. Like my best friend says, we all have our cross to bear. That's how she words it, whatever that theme is. Like hers is in health. And, some people it could be finances. Some could be in relationships. Some could be they always feel abandoned, or all that type of stuff. So whatever it is, it's coming from this programming that no matter we change our approach, we haven't really healed that programming, that wounding. And once we move that out, you stop attracting that. You stop experiencing that. And so that's how we talk about you break free from, struggle in your relationship in all areas of your life, because once we heal that struggle stops showing up. You stop experiencing life through that old program, that old charge. So you stop perceiving the world the way you used to. You stop perceiving the world the way you used to, and you stop attracting from that wounding.
Mm-hmm. I just love this. This is just the best information ever. And at what point, when you talk about the mosquito, which is such a perfect analogy, at what point do people find you in your work, in your Heal Your Heart for Your Mind book? Is it at that point where somebody's struggling, or they're in a maze, or they're hitting a wall? Or is the book also good for somebody who has a happy, wonderful life but wants even more, or more ecstasy, or more passion, or... Yeah,
I think it's for everybody, because, we all have, there's not one soul in the world that hasn't received this programming that's unconsciously driving their life, There's really especially that soul that hasn't had, that there's just some area in their life, like they can have so many great things going on in their life, but that there's this one area that they just haven't been able to, break free from, and so this work is for everybody. I being in this work and in this industry, and kind of being amongst a lot of people who are teaching in the transformational industry, even all of us who are doing that work, we all have kind of pattern that we still are trying to break free from, and so it's for everybody, really, truly.
That's so fascinating. It's wonderful. And then I know in your bio that it said that you had a near-death experience and that you actually came back from the other side with a mission. Do you mind talking about that for a second? Because I think that's so inspirational, especially for people to think that live in darkness and think there's nowhere to go and I can't get out of where I'm at right now. The fact that you actually came back from the other side is just truly a light in the darkness. So.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, truth is, it's so beautiful there that I didn't want to come back, and was told I had to come back to deliver this message. I was being taken through all of this, that a lot of what I'm teaching prior to that crossing over. Yet I didn't have the awareness, because I was still living I was still living with some, limiting programming, and so really, I was still missing my mother deeply, and I still wanted to be there over there. I was still feeling like the world that I longed for didn't exist here; it existed over there, and with the person I love most, my mother, over there, and so. So even though I was just being divinely guided and given this, I still wasn't actually sharing it with the world, and in a big way. I was doing it very limited way, and really it was kind of like the divine had to take me over there and kind of show me all of that, and make me really understand all of this that I was being taken through and guided through and shown it. And so, that was the truly the defining moment that made me really now do what I'm doing now, and get out of my some of my old program stories. So, one of those was, divine, but I'm a certain age and I should be married with kids by this age. So I'll get to that when I find my right life partner and I have my, family, because I'm getting older and I won't be able to. So it was like stories like that was keeping me from doing what I was being told to do, and so I had to kind of get freed of some of those stories that were limiting me, and that's kind of what happened to me on the other side. But yeah, there's definitely nothing to fear. There's nothing but just love and beauty on the other side, and I guess the story I would best like to share is that my father, when my mother and I had this agreement, we used to watch a medium called John Edwards when he had a show Crossing Over, and we loved the show, that we taped it all the time. And my mother and I had an agreement, whoever died first, we'd meet at John Edwards. So as my mother was dying, I said, remember where we're going to meet, Mom, right? And she said, yes. And so I looked to see where John Edwards was going to speak the soonest, and the soonest was the soonest was when he was going to be the closest to me, and that was exactly on my mother's birthday, August 14th. And so I was like, that's the day. That's the one I have to go to. And so I went to that, and my father came with me just to console me when my mother didn't come through. Because my father believed when you died, you died. That's it. And so because, though, my mother watched the show all the time, my mother knew how to get his attention from the 2,500 other people that were there who were looking to get a reading from him as well. And he reads at most 10 people in these couple of hours that he's doing this. And so we not only got read, but we got read first. Like, my mom knew to get his attention before he got started. And so, you know, he's like, it started doing his description, goes, okay, I'm coming right over here in just a minute. And he finished, you know, directions, and he goes, okay, I have a mother energy here who died of a brain tumor. And really, most of the reading was from my father. And my mother said things that my father could not justify, that this was that this guy was just, you know, saying things that anybody could have, right, or just guessing. So he said to my father, he goes, so she's telling me to tease you about a man in a little Bo Peep outfit. And my dad starts busting down and crying, like, instantly right there. And I'm looking at my dad going, like, what? You know, what the heck's he talking about? I have no clue what John's talking about. And afterwards, my father tells me what happened. He says that after my mother died, he went to a park where him and my mother used to walk along a river, and he was, you know, crying, you know, and he was sat on a bench, and he had his hands down in his face, and he was just crying. And when and then all of a sudden he felt an arm around him, you know, and kind of patting him on the back. And my dad looks up, and it's a man in a little Bo Peep outfit with a bonnet, a dress, and a staff, right? And this is what John said. He's going a little Bo Peep outfit with a staff and a bonnet and everything. And this guy's like trying to console my father and hitting on my father at the same time. Now, my father didn't ever tell anybody about this, right? This was like kind of embarrassing kind of thing, and he didn't tell anybody. And so that's, you know, my mother knew she had to tell him a story that he couldn't justify that, how, you know, John could know that. And that made my dad a believer that my mom was around, you know, saw this, and that my mom was around. So from that point on, my father started that night, because it was her birthday, he took her out to dinner to her favorite restaurant, and he took her to Cirque du Soleil that night, and it just happened to be an empty seat, and he, like, held her hand. And from that point on, he was kind of having a relationship with my mom. Like, he knew he could talk to her and that she could hear him, you know, and that was very healing for my father. And the next thing I knew, he's, like, sneaking off to see where John Edward was going to speak again so he could, you know, connect with my mother again. But that, like, became life-changing for my father, of really realizing that my mother was still around, even though he can't see her and he can't hear her. And so that's why I think the gift of mediumship is, and why the cynic always gets read, because they need to know it the most so that they can do their healing. You know, because when you think that they're dead and gone forever, and you missed your chance to say I'm sorry, or them to make amends in any way, you're normally left with that pain, you know, and that hurt and that guilt and that unforgiveness, and that's what hinders that vibration, and that's what we're creating our life from then, if we don't heal that. And so it's so crucial to heal this wounding, you know, if they are alive or they're not, for us, for ourselves.
Well, thank you for sharing that story. That was really beautiful. I'm sitting here so emotional for your father, for your mom. And I love John's work, but just so touching and such a great testament for all of the people that are listening to the show of what's possible and how love really does, you know, go on forever. Just fabulous. So thank you for sharing that. And then I also wanted to ask you.
Yes. And I guess I just want to say on the other side, you know, my experience there was, with my mother, but also all of the deceased pets. I mean, I was feeling my cat going underneath, rubbing itself on my legs, and my horse was like breathing on me, and my dogs, like I was also interacting with all of my deceased animals when I was seeing my mother too. And so, our animals are over there as well, and that was beautiful as well to have that love that they're there. They're still there too, and they're around us, and they await us when we go on the side. And we are never alone, even if we feel like we're alone. We are never alone, ever. We might not be able to see them, but they're around.
Yes, I believe it wholeheartedly. And then I wanted to ask you, I know we only have a couple minutes left, but I know that once you had called your book a revolutionary 9-step system to permanently shapeshift your life. And at first I love the fact that it's a shape-shifting book, because just the idea, the visual image of shift shaping is so fabulous, because it allows you, like a kaleidoscope, to have the same energy and light and heart and spirit and soul that's inside of you. And then with just a little bit of movement, it's an entirely different picture.
Yeah,
and so,
exactly. That's a great analogy. I like that.
So can you talk just a little bit about it? I know that we only have a couple minutes left, but I just love the idea of a 9-step system that actually can shapeshift your life.
Yeah, well, that is like the program, basically, 9 steps. And really, we are, when we free you from this, programming, liberate you from this programming that has been, driving your life, and a lot of it unconsciously, then your life does, shape shift. You can shape shift it now. Now, instead of all of this stuff you have of fear, worry, and not good enough, and just all of that, not that limiting programming, then you are limitless of what you can now create in your life, and now you can shape your life, shift your life into something that you more want to live than the one that has been kind of been built you based on what you're broadcasting out and the world responding to you. The world's now responding to pure love, then your life experience is completely transformed.
I love your work, Brandy. I'm so excited for you, and congratulations on the launch of your book, Heal Your Heart, Free Your Mind, which we can find on Brandy's books.
Brandy'sBook.com, yep.
Brandy'sBook.com, and Heal Your Heart and Free Your Mind.com, which I just love the idea of all of this. And then I guess as we wrap up this show, I always love to ask people a definition. And so for you, what does healing mean to you?
What does healing mean to me? Really, I believe all healing is healing all of this wounding and, subconscious programming, but mostly the wounding programming, because, all physical disease is from it manifests first. The physical manifests from the energetic wounding. So, all disease starts from dis-ease in our energetic being. And so as we heal this dis-ease in our energetic being, then all of the disease, then that just then falls away. So healing just is healing all of these hurts and wounds that we have picked up, since our conception, and the things we remember and the things that we don't.
That was
things
a
that got
beautiful
passed down to us.
It is. That was a beautiful. I always love, and I'm always just so intrigued by people's answers. I asked Dr. John Ireland, the pastor to the stars, what is a vow? And he said, well, a vow is not a compliment. I think you're sexy. I like you. A vow. So I always love to hear people's descriptions, and we'll have, we always put them on the websites. And so I love your description of healing. And for all of you who are out there listening to the show today, if you'd like to get a copy of today's show, if you've been trying to take notes, Brandy's book and how to find Heal Your Heart and Free Your Mind and all this incredible information that she shared about the wounding and the subconscious and all of the ways that you can have a clean state and start your day, as Brandy does, with a smile and sunshiny and zippity-doo-dah in your heart. The beautiful wonderment of everything. You can simply send a text to 55678. Really easy. Send a text to 55678, and the message is simply Nicole. And you can download a copy of today's show onto any mobile device and listen to it over and over and over again and get this incredible information that she has shared with us today. And Brandy, I wish you all the best. I so thank you for taking your time today to be with us and to share this material. I love what you're doing, and I'm so glad you came back from the other side to be with us and to be on this mission and to share this incredible work that really is helping people start anew and start clean. And I love the fact that you can not just erase any of these stories that aren't serving you, but that you can open a space to create new stories of joy and happiness and fulfillment and bliss and that happily ever after we all dream about and desire and deserve.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Nicole, so much for inviting me to be a part of your show. It's been such an honor to be here with you, and it's been truly a blessing to actually, get to know you as well.
Well, thank you. I feel the exact same way, and we so look forward to having you here again. And so for Brandy, Faith, Weld, and for myself, Nicole Brandon, we are wishing you a beautiful, spectacular week and a happily ever after, and may all your wishes and dreams come true.